Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news this Tuesday morning. Obviously Manchester United playing Burnley tomorrow, but lots to discuss, from Glazer sale talks to transfers to tours of the US. I was going to try and offer some sort of teaser there, but I think we've all seen the news, haven't we, that it looks like Manchester United are off to the US in the summer, and I'll certainly be going on this tour. I've been looking forward to the US tour for ages, but lots to get in with. Some people in the chat are saying, what are you talking about Martinez transfer interest? Martinez. We're not talking about Lisandro Martinez. We're not talking about Lautaro Martinez. We're talking about Emi Martinez, the Argentinian goalkeeper who's currently at Aston Villa. And Fabrizio Romano has an update on that, mentioning Manchester United as a potential domino effect in the summer involving goalkeepers. What would you think about Martinez coming to Manchester United? Of course, we've got a very significant day as well for Manchester United, because with Burnley tomorrow, everybody's back in training today after yesterday's day off, and that means that you will be seeing people like Harry Maguire, Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro. All those players will be back in training today, and hopefully most of them will be starting tomorrow night in what will be a very good game against Burnley, a very big game. I mean, we talk about the excitement of the Burnley game coming back. Manchester United coming back for the Burnley game. We talk about the excitement about that, but let's not forget that if we were to lose that game, that excitement bubble would be burst, wouldn't it? Very, very quickly, because we'd be like, oh my God, you know. So we need a positive result, of course. But we're going to start off. Remember, this is a news show. We go through the news. We'll tell you where it's come from. Some people get really aggy about this. They think that, you know, it's just a story that's made up, and maybe the story is made up, but it's not made up from us. It's a news show. That's what we do, 10 o'clock every morning on the United Stand. We are covering and reacting to the news and giving our opinion on whether we think it's real or not. It's amazing how many times you have to explain that across 7 years of doing it, but, you know, sometimes turbo Prats will infiltrate the chat. But big shout out to the community. I hope you're doing well. We're going to start off with a story from Bild. It's about Marcus Thuram, who is French international, played in the World Cup final. Obviously wasn't a starter, was more as an impact sub. He's currently available on a free transfer in the summer. He is a striker, and Bild, the German outlet, have linked him to Manchester United, saying that Manchester United are looking at him as a cheap option to bring in January. Now, we spent a lot of last night's show talking about Plan B, talking about whether Manchester United have got the money to spend £50 million on Cody Gakpo. Well, Jason says we should get Thuram, and look, I'm not here to dismiss the player. He's got very good stats in the Bundesliga. I mean, the Bundesliga is always a bit of a fear, I know. He is out of contract in the summer. I always get mixed up with who he plays for. Is it Mönchengladbach or is it Leverkusen? I always get mixed up. I think it's Mönchengladbach, Thuram. I'm pretty sure it is, but it'll probably be Leverkusen now. But I'm pretty sure it's Mönchengladbach. But I think that, look, the fact that Bild are reporting it, today's my birthday, any news on De Gea, says Ants TV. Well, happy birthday, first of all, and we'll be talking about the goalkeeper situation in a minute. I like what Gray says, Thuram in January and Osimhen in the summer. That could be interesting. It is Gladbach. Thank you to Mario and Clips. So, look, there are many trains of thought that many people probably aren't that interested in around what financials Manchester United have got in January, and we spent a lot of time talking about that last night. Now, if you cannot pay £50 million for Cody Gakpo in January, you cannot just go, we're not going to buy anybody. There has to be an alternate plan, and that alternate plan could well be a Memphis, or it could well be a Thuram. Now, Thuram is 25. He's not an up-and-coming player. He's 25, and therefore he's a player that you'd bring in and you'd want something out of him. Carl says that Burnley are going to give us a go. We can get the win. Top of the morning to you, Mark. Hello, everyone. And big shout out to Carl. I'm not going to dismiss Thuram. I don't necessarily think that Manchester United are in for Thuram, but I'm not going to dismiss it, because I think that would be naive in relation to the fact that there are options in January. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not... I'm at pains to say we're not in a January transfer window where nothing can be done. Like, we've seen it before. I think last January we needed to do stuff, and there wasn't a hell of a lot we could do. I think with this January transfer window, there are options. You know, there is João Felix, there is Cody Gakpo, there is THURAM, there is Memphis, and there is a couple of other options as well. The interesting profile is, and Jay says we need Mbappe. The interesting profile about THURAM is that he is he's like Tielemans. You know, sometimes sometimes a player like that comes along on a cheap deal, out of contract in the summer, and you go, you know, there's a lot of value in that deal. It's a decent player at a decent price where there's not many risks. Now, Tielemans for me is a player that United should be looking at for whatever reason. Ten Hag doesn't rate him. But in relation to THURAM, again, I've got to come in here and say, I don't think we're looking at THURAM. There's a lot of people in the chat saying, yeah, let's go get him, let's not get him. But I don't personally think we are looking at him. I don't think he is a player that United are looking at. I think it's a 2+2 is 5 scenario where United are looking at a striker. There is a striker available in January. He's available for cheap. He's done quite well in the Bundesliga. He's a French international. But is he better than Martial? No, not in my opinion. Is he a better forward than Rashford? Probably, because he's actually a forward. Therefore, he might not be a bad option because, you know, I'm not convincing myself here, but I don't think we're in for him, but I can see why we've been linked to him because if you think about Cody Gakpo, there is this thing about Gakpo that he can play anywhere across the front four but doesn't really want to play up front. If you buy THURAM, he doesn't want to play anywhere across the front four, he wants to play up front. He can play off the left, but he wants to play through the middle. So what's better for Manchester United? Do you want somebody that's understudy to Martial, but if Martial gets injured can start up front? Or do you want Cody Gakpo, who needs to be developed as an understudy for Anthony Martial, and for £50 million probably needs to start? You do start to convince yourself that actually, you know, I think we'll go for Gakpo. I think Gakpo's the deal to do, but I do start to convince myself that actually it might be quite nice just to have somebody who can play up front, who is a striker, who comes into the team and sits on the bench unless Martial's out of form or injured. Maybe that's what we need until the summer, when you hopefully get the big bucks, and then you go on, you know, you assess Anthony Martial in the summer. Because what I'm trying to say is that if you bought a THURAM for 10 million or 15 million or whatever he's going for, ridiculously cheap, and he's there from the start of January, and Martial breaks down, and you play THURAM up front, you're like, well, look, Martial's the one who's let us down, not THURAM. He's there as the backup striker, he's playing for us. And then you get to the summer, and THURAM does okay, but Martial just can't stay fit. You've got to buy Osimhen anyway, and THURAM's okay to stay. If you buy Gakpo for 50 million and Martial breaks down, you've still got to buy Osimhen anyway, or whoever it is going to buy. So I can see the value in going for a cheaper striker in January, but I don't think that's the plan. I think you've got to also remember that I mean, THURAM and Gusto would be fantastic Patreon. I'd love that. I think you've also got to focus on what the plan is, and I think the plan from Erik ten Hag is not to go for THURAM. It is to go for Gakpo. Clone, thank you very much, and welcome to the United Stand Members Club. Somebody did say, can you do a poll on this? Would you take THURAM? I mean, it's a very difficult poll to do, because if you want Gakpo, you're going to say no. Would I take THURAM? I think the manager should be given what he wants, and he clearly wants Gakpo, but I can see the value of a deal like that, because what do we want in January? We want someone who can play up front. That's what we want, and I personally think that Martial's our best striker, so what you want is somebody that can play up front, that if Martial gets injured, takes on that role, comes off the bench. So I think that, you know, THURAM sort of falls into that. Do you know someone called Kev Adams? No, Liam, I don't. I keep getting asked this. And the reality is, if you look at it, then, you know, you can see the value in that. But if you bring in Gakpo, some people think he can't play up front. Some people think he doesn't want to play up front. But if you bring in Gakpo, he's got to start. Where does Gakpo actually start, by the way? You know, this is an important thing. I think we'll go for him. I think he's the player that Ten Hag wants, and therefore you've got to get him. But if you're spending 45, 50 million pounds on a player in January, he's got to start. So where is he starting? That's an interesting point. You know, we're negotiating a contract with Marcus Rashford for, you know, over 300 grand a week. We've spent 85 million pounds on Anthony. Bruno's going to start. And Martial is clearly well liked by Ten Hag. So what are we doing with Gakpo then? Are we putting him on the bench for 45 million, or are we benching Rashford, Bruno, Anthony, or Martial for him? It's an interesting point, isn't it? And look, I'm not moving away from what I think. I think Gakpo's clearly the player that United want to get, but I always like to delve a little bit deeper, and I think there's a conversation there. If we do sign Gakpo, where is he going to play, and where is he going to play? Rihan says Football Manager today be fun, or you could do it for 11 PM like you did with other games and play career mode and Football Manager. Yeah, Rihan, I love just spending my whole life streaming computer games, but thanks for the super chat. Football Manager will be back, but it's FIFA today at 3. THURAM is as slow as Maguire, says Andrew, who's clearly not watched THURAM. And any news on a right back, and is Laird coming back, says Darren. Well, I'll quickly give you the update on that, even though it wasn't in the schedule, but we can throw it in as any other business. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is wanted by West Ham, Crystal Palace and Wolves at the moment. This would be a loan deal. There is absolutely no reason for Aaron Wan-Bissaka to stay at Manchester United in January, and he will be moved on because that's what Ten Hag wants. What he will do, well, he didn't use Aaron Wan-Bissaka anyway. It's not like we do need a right back, but he wasn't using Wan-Bissaka anyway, and he won't use him tomorrow against Burnley. I'd be stunned if he starts. Well, having said that, he might do it just to put him in the shop window, but I'd be stunned if he starts because you can play Malacia at right back. So, what do we do at right back? Well, he might do what he did before. He might play Malacia at right back when Deleu's injured. He might try Lindelof at right back. He might bring Laird back. He might try Brandon Williams there. I don't necessarily think we're going to buy a right back in January. I think if we're spending time talking about whether we've got the money to sign Cody Gakpo, then I think we need to spend the time to think about what we would do with a right back situation. Thank you for consistently putting out good shows. Merry Christmas to you. And the United Stand team says, yes, dog behaviour in training, who's been a member for 6 months. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. So let's see what happens with THURAM. Funnily enough, 58% of you would take him, which I think is very encouraging. Big shout out to the democracy of the community. Interesting. I don't think we're in for him. I don't think we'll go for him. But I think he's an interesting profile of a striker who would come in for very cheap and actually be a backup striker until the summer. And 10 million for THURAM is worth the gamble, says Ray. Would you be just before I move on to this Martinez story, I suppose the thing to say is, would you be disappointed? I'm still mad this old James Garner, says Grace, you and me both. Would you be disappointed? Malp says we're not in for THURAM. Well, Build says that we are. I'll probably go with you, Malps, on it, to be honest with you. Would you be disappointed if United didn't sign Gakpo and bought THURAM? Would you be disappointed? I think Eric Ten Hag would be disappointed. Would you be disappointed? Would I be disappointed? And the honest answer is no. I wouldn't be disappointed. I think we should sign Gakpo because it's the player that Eric Ten Hag wants, and that's what I want to happen. But if we bought THURAM instead of Gakpo, we would actually have a backup striker who plays up front. And Martial would be first choice. We would be replacing Cavani. Wouldn't be replacing Ronaldo. Ronaldo was our player of the year and top goal scorer. That would have to be done in the summer. But we would at least be bringing a striker in that can help us between now and the end of the season, and would still help us next year as a backup striker. So I wouldn't be disappointed by it. But I'd be disappointed for Ten Hag. Robert McCormack says Ten Hag fancies Rashford up front. I think you're right, Robert. I do. I think he does. I think that's probably why he's looking at Gakpo, because he knows that Gakpo can play off the wing. I think Ten Hag likes Rashford up front. I think Rashford likes being up front. I mean, everyone loves playing up front. It's where you score the goals, isn't it? But for me, Rashford's better off the left. And it's been proven this season, but I agree with Robert. I don't always really agree with Robert, but I do think Ten Hag has this idea that Marcus Rashford is a centre forward, and look, maybe he'll be proved right. I mean, Rashford scored some good goals with his head. Just Keevan says he clearly does prefer Rashford up front. I don't prefer Rashford up front. In fact, well, let's do a poll on that. So yes, 59% of you would take THURAM. What is Rashford's best position? You can run a poll on that while I talk about this Martinez story. Somebody just said, can you put bench? No, you cheeky get. Although it made me laugh. I'm tempted to put bench in now. No, I won't. Left wing or striker. Let's keep it serious on a morning. On a Tuesday morning. So yes, we'll see what happens with that. This was a really interesting story yesterday, and I should have picked up on it last night, so I apologise, because it was actually a pretty throwaway comment, but a very interesting comment from Fabrizio Romano, who basically said this, that Martinez, the Aston Villa goalkeeper, could spark a domino effect of goalkeepers in the summer, with Manchester United and Chelsea interested. A centre forward is a must, whether Gakpo, THURAM, Depay, Felix, but I think we can tide over till the summer at right back with Malacia/Williams, says Michael. And THURAM actually is actually very quick and has elite movement that Guy clearly has never watched him, says Daniel Kirk. Yeah, I don't know. It really is the bench though, says Julian. Yeah, I'm not putting bench in there. There's an issue with Rashford. I don't get it. I mean, I really don't get it. I've always been a fan of Rashford. I know he's been, poor up until the start of this season, but he's always been one of, I'm very honest in my opinion, and people think if I say Rashford was crap or Bruno was crap, I'm a hater, even though they're two of my favourite players. But, I wouldn't sell them. I wouldn't get rid of them. I think that they are part of our future, and they're very clearly part of Erik Ten Hag's future, without a shadow of a doubt. But I'd put him off the left, definitely. In relation to Martinez, he is a shithouse. There is no doubt about it. Welcome to the Shithouse Show with Martinez. I was out for drinks on Friday night. One of the lads I was out with was fuming about Martinez, and that was before the World Cup final. I was looking at social media on Sunday night and yesterday, and many people were fuming with Martinez as well. I cannot deny that he is. I mean, Roshan hates him. But look, I don't see it. I don't know why. I don't see a problem with this goalkeeper. I think his distribution is very good. His personality is typical of a good goalkeeper, and he is an amazing shot stopper. And I knew they were going to win that final before penalties. I knew they were going to win it on penalties because of him. He is a personality, and I've said this before. Rudiger at Chelsea was a shithouse, but I'd have loved him at Man United, because you want those characters. And Herrera was a shithouse, and you want him in a United shirt. I think Lisandro Martinez is as well. And I think Martinez is. And Aston Villa fans will love him. There's no real reason for him to leave Aston Villa other than the fact that he might think that he should be playing in the Champions League, which is probably correct. Would I take Martinez at Manchester United? Well, I don't want Martinez at Manchester United because I want David De Gea to stay. But if you're asking me about replacements, I think he would be on the list, because the one thing that he has got, he's a very good goalkeeper and he's got all the attributes that you want, but he's also got the personality. I can't believe Arsenal didn't see the talent and let him go. I mean, I'm not saying Ramsdale's a bad goalkeeper, but they let him go to stick by Leno. I think Martinez is a good goalkeeper. And look, do I think United will do this deal? No. But a lot can change when you bring new owners in. Anything's possible when you bring new owners in. We're not signing Bellingham. You get new owners in, you might be signing Bellingham and De Jong. You just don't know what investment's going to go in. So you can never say never, but we don't know who the owners are yet. But I want to keep De Gea. But if De Gea's going to go, of course I'd consider Martinez. And when Fabrizio Romano is linking him to Manchester United and Chelsea, you've got to sort of consider it. I think it's fantastic that now we have a pair of World Cup winning centre-backs, not just one, says Cody. Thank you very much for that. And hi, Mark. Do you think we regret not getting Trippier as the right-back option for Delot? I remember we were in for him. No, Ryan, I don't, actually. I think Trippier's a good right-back, but ultimately, if we'd got Trippier, we would have sold Delot. That was the plan that Solskjaer had. He wanted to sell Delot and sign Trippier. So I feel that it's worked out better for us in the end, because we've gone with the, we've ended up developing Delot. I wouldn't mind having Trippier, but Delot is the one for me without a doubt, really. We got Barthez after a World Cup, says Marcus. Yeah, but Martinez is proven in the Premier League. I mean, I've got no problem with Martinez as a personality. I know he winds some people up, but he doesn't wind me up. And I judge him as a goalkeeper with a very strong character, and I think he'd be very... If De Gea left, I'd welcome Martinez at Man United. It'd be very interesting to see if anything happens with it. And I'm not saying that Fabrizio's right. I mean, look, Fabrizio was talking about Jonathan David to Manchester United, wasn't he? Well, I'm acting like that's not going to happen. I mean, I don't think Jonathan David to Manchester United is going to happen. We've just spent a bit of time talking about THURAM. Maybe Jonathan David to Manchester United could still happen. I mean, Fabrizio mentioned that, didn't he? But he's Premier League proven, Martinez, and I'd certainly consider it if De Gea was to leave. But personally, I want to keep De Gea And I agree with Jojo that De Gea can give us a few more years. But TT says that Emi Martinez is only good at penalties. Well, you've not watched him then. I think he's a very good goalkeeper. And 12 Days of Cantona makes a great point. Imagine Emi Martinez and the Butcher. It'd be a very good combination. Well, you know what? Sometimes you've got to look at your profile of your back four, haven't you? Or your back five. With Varane, Martinez, De Gea and Dalot, they all speak the same language, and it's worked really, really well for us. So, you know, maybe that's something to consider for Erik ten Hag if he did that. But you wouldn't bring Martinez to compete in with De Gea. You'd have two goalkeepers that are way too good there. So you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that. So let's move on from that. Just very, very quickly, it was sort of leaked last night. I think it was Manchester Evening News talking about it, but it's well known anyway. It's been well known since... I think it's been well known since March of last year that United would be going to the US this summer. Obviously, last summer they went to Australia and Asia again. This summer will be the US for Manchester United. So I think that that's very exciting. We've not been to the US for 4 years, is it? I mean, it was before COVID, and that feels like a long time ago. So yeah, I'd be very, very excited about that. I think it's a, you know, talking about a tour, pre-season tour at the moment seems very irrelevant because we're just about to restart a season after a World Cup break, and it's very exciting. But you know, once the season ends in May and we have all of June without football, we'll be very excited about the US tour. And I think the US tour is always an exciting thing anyway. I desperately want to go on this one, so I'm looking forward to it. So they definitely should come to South Africa, Buzz. I don't know why they haven't done that. No watch-alongs today, Lucy. We're playing tomorrow, so there's no Carabao Cup games that I fancy doing tonight, thank you. I guess they will play DC United and Inter Miami, says Adam. May well. Top four is going to be interesting, says Abdi. It will. Well, today's going to be interesting. I've sort of got my eye on my Twitter feed, actually, because United players will be in training, and I'm surprised that we haven't got any pictures yet of Carrington, etc. Because obviously the big player for me that I'm focused on today is Jadon Sancho, and whether Jadon Sancho will be training for Manchester United, because that's the one I'm most interested in. Jadon Sancho, Manchester United. Is he back in training today? We know that we've got people like all the World Cup players back, but my information, and it might not be right, was that Jadon Sancho is not expected back today for Manchester United in training. He's not expected at Carrington. Now, that would be a blow. I mean, there's been an update from a few outlets about, and Chris Wheeler in the Daily Mail has said that Man United have been offering support to Jadon Sancho after Ten Hag revealed the 22-year-old wasn't physically or mentally fit to join the training trip to Spain. Ten Hag has been consulting executives and experts from Tour de France cycling teams for advice on optimum sleep patterns and nutrition for players after the World Cup, and he wants to leave no stone unturned in his efforts to ensure the players bounce back strongly after the World Cup, and he's using a team of specialist coaches, mind coaches, in an attempt to limit the threat of Man United's World Cup players suffering mental fatigue hangover from the tournament. Which is interesting because we spoke about that ourselves, didn't we? We spoke about this yesterday, I think, on one of the videos. I said yesterday that I'm concerned about the World Cup hangover for some of our players. So it's interesting that Erik ten Hag is looking at that, because some people were saying, oh, it won't be a problem, but you know, I think it will. And Erik ten Hag clearly agrees with me. It's something that you can't just say everything will be fine. Are we only eyeing Martinez because he's Dutch, says Quinali. Emi Martinez is Argentinian, mate. Just won the World Cup for Argentina. So, yeah, look, I think Erik ten Hag has got it absolutely spot on. I don't think he leaves any stone unturned, as the article said. He knows that football is about the physical and mental. And, yeah, without a doubt, there is potential for World Cup players to have a hangover, because it's, you know, it's hard. But, you know what? It's an interesting thing. I mean, look, I don't want to dwell on that too much, because I'd said it yesterday. Maybe the Brazilian lads might feel a bit of a hangover because it's such a big tournament for them, and they bottled it, didn't they? don't know about the English players. I mean, they'll be used to bottling it, and they've all been called heroes for getting knocked out of the quarterfinal, so they might actually be feeling quite confident. I mean, Maguire's sharing pictures of himself in the team of the tournament, so I don't think he's going to have a hangover. I think he's still pissed on that, isn't he? I don't think the English players will have any problems because they love failure, don't they? So they'll be okay. But maybe the Brazilian players, the Portuguese players, maybe there's a bit of a hangover there. Maybe Varane when he comes back. I mean, Martinez is going to be very happy as well, isn't he? But look, it's good that our manager's looking at that. Dylan's, thank you very much for the super chat, Dylan. He says, hi Mark, really thought Sancho could take the number 7 shirt, but with what's happening now, don't think he has the mental strength. Well, look, I hope there is no press conference today, Noel, which is really disappointing. It's funny, Ricky messaged me yesterday and said, is there a press conference today? And I said, no. He said, gutted. And I agree with Ricky on this because there's the low injury update, which we haven't had. There's the Sancho update, which would be interesting. And then there's the whole World Cup's over, how the next few weeks going to go, as well as transfers in and out. So I feel that United have missed a trick not doing a press conference with Ten Hag because it's been a long time. And it's a week where a press conference for Ten Hag would have been really appreciated. They're not doing one. And there's apparently some sort of player Q&A with fans, which is fine, but players can't talk to you about Jadon Sancho, Dalot's injury, transfers. They can talk to you about excitement for the start of the season and how they're finding training, but we've been there, we've done that. We need a little bit more. And with the game being played against Forest a week today, the day after Boxing Day, will the Erik Ten Hag press conference be pre-recorded? Because, at the end of the day, or will they do it on Friday, Christmas, the 23rd? Maybe they'll do it then, a few days before. Maybe we'll get a big press conference on Friday with Ten Hag. But we need one. We need one. There's a lot to talk about, definitely. But Jadon Sancho's an interesting one. I really hope we see Jadon Sancho at Carrington today, good to go, because the fans are ready to get behind him, and we need him, involved in these games. If he's not back today, well, you'd think, well, when is he going to be back then? Is he going to be back after Christmas, which means that puts him out of the Wolves game? I don't know. Have you heard of Kvaratskhelia? Yes, I have. He plays for Napoli, Embid. I have. Mark, I've been watching for a few years now, and I just wanted to say keep up the great work with what you've done and doing for both United Stand and That's Football, one of my favourite YouTubers. Azem, thank you very much for all your support. Sancho will become a legend, just need good strikers to read his creativity and sell Trashford, says Haynes. You were going so well then. Ten Hag is the real deal, isn't he, says Man Ray. I still believe in Sancho, says Joe. I still believe in Sancho. I think he's a fantastic player, and I think he, I just want him to get back involved. But I also agree, you can't come back until you're ready. So, look, I hope he is back soon. Maybe we will get a picture of him today back in training at Carrington. We're definitely going to see Rashford and Anthony and Casemiro and Bruno. But maybe we'll see a Sancho. You would think he would want to be back today, knowing that all the World Cup players are back. You'd think he'd want to be back. But if he can't be back for whatever the reason is, then we've just got to respect it, haven't we? Sancho to change his game and be a striker, says 12 David Cantona. Can't see that. Ken says, what if Sancho's issues are like Luke Shaw's issues under Jose? Well, that's what we don't want. We don't want these issues to be Ten Hag related, and I don't think they are. There's nothing to suggest that. So we'll just wait and see. Look, we're live again at 2. Got a good show at 2 o'clock, so we'll know by 2 o'clock what the situation is with all of the players back in training. Glazers sale talks, just a very quick update on that. Lots of outlets yesterday talking about the Glazers being in the Middle East to talk about Saudi and other potential bids for Manchester United. We'd already predicted this last week with Avram Glazer being pictured in over at the World Cup. Obviously, The Athletic, David Ornstein confirmed it. And I think other people are just picking up on it now. A few people have been asking me about it, saying what's going on with that. I think the cold, harsh fact is that it's just regurgitation of the same story. There's nothing new to report. I mean, there may well be other talks ongoing, but Avram Glazer is or has been out in the Middle East stirring up interest in Manchester United, and there's nothing more we could add about that really, because until we hear, we hear. On the poll for Rashford, what's his best position? 19% of you say it's a striker, and 81% of you said it's left wing, and I've got to say I'm with the majority. I think that Marcus Rashford is best running at goal. And the only way you're going to run at goal is when you are either getting the ball over the top on the counter as a striker, which we don't want to do. We don't want to be a counter-attacking team. Or it's when you're playing off the wing, you receive the ball and you run at your fullback. I think that's where Rashford's good. You play Rashford as a striker, he's very rarely going to be running at the fullback, running at the centre-back. He's going to play with his back to goal. It's about movement. It's about link-up play. I'm all for improving Rashford, but I think Rashford's big strength is running at people, as we saw in the World Cup. Darsh says, any updates on Axel Tuanzebe? So Axel Tuanzebe and Phil Jones are out of contract in the summer. They will leave. Man United will not renew. There is apps, and they shouldn't renew. I mean, Phil Jones should not get a renewal. He had 5 years for nothing. But you wouldn't renew Tuanzebe either because, again, everyone's back now. He was injured for the Spain trip. Varane and Martinez are back next week. Lindelof and Maguire are fit. There's not going to be any game time for Tuanzebe, so he will be let go, unfortunately. He will be let go in the summer on a free. There's no reason to renew. If you're going to sell James Garner, you're definitely not going to renew Tuanzebe, are you, at the end of the day? Anyway, just on outgoings, just very, very quickly, we spoke about Wan-Bissaka. I still think Williams could go. Donny, I'd keep an eye on until the end of the window, like Romano said. And I do think that we should be looking to loan some of the youngsters, whether it's Charlie Savage, maybe Iqbal, maybe Hugo McNeil. These sort of players, I think, are not ready to play for the first team in the final few months of the season, and will benefit from loan deals, just like Ahmad is, just like Mejbri is, just like Laird is. I would put them on loan. Iqbal's probably the most divisive one, but I do think he's ready to play in the Championship. So what's better for him? Play 5 months in the Championship or hang around for maybe a few minutes somewhere? I think it's better for him to be in the Championship, to be honest. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching. Jay Play says De Jong. Well, Man United want De Jong, but we're not going to get him in January. And we've always wanted De Jong under Ten Hag. We'll have to wait and see. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back at 2 o'clock. Smash a like on the video and subscribe. And I'll speak to you all in a bit. Take care, everyone. Take care.